Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Beards and Gears. So today we are going to be doing some exciting stuff on the E30. We might even have a startup on today's episode. But today what we're going to do is we're going to remove some stuff, bleed the system. But in case you haven't watched my last episode on the meats where I gave an update of what's going on with the E30 and where I'm at with it, let me show you guys what's been going on. So this thing is pretty much ready to start up. Fuel lines are connected. I took that apart because I found out I need a new blower motor. Fuel lines are connected. I got the E90 brake booster. Everything fits in well. I had to bend the lines back. I got this hose and I got the heater core hose connected to the back, and the heater core hose connected to the back of the water pump as well, because you have an inlet and an outlet. I got coil packs connected. As you can see, I got that. If you can see, if it decides to focus, let's see. You can see the headers in there because I decided, because there is a part of the motor mount that was just like hanging, and it wasn't letting me take off and put the headers back on easily, so I had to grind it down. I'm replacing all the studs. Got a brand new OE metal gasket for the headers. But what we're going to be doing today, we might have a startup. We might. We'll see. But what I'm doing right now is there is a oil cooler that comes on the stock M20 that I'm removing, and we're going to I'm going to bleed the entire system. That's the clutch, brakes, everything's going to get bled. Alright, so I had to do this off camera, but I'll show you what needs to get done. There's essentially a bolt underneath this and a bolt underneath that, those two clamps, and they hold in this OEM oil cooler that comes on the M20. I won't be needing this because the M52 doesn't have it, and if I do run an oil cooler, I don't think I'm gonna run this, because if I go turbo, I might run an oil cooler. Not if, but when I go turbo, I might run an oil cooler. And if I run an oil cooler, I'm gonna probably run a Mishimoto. It's much more compact than that. It just basically works better. But anyways, now it's time for me to bleed the system. All right, so before I get started on bleeding the brakes, I'm gonna give you guys a little tip. For those people that are new, or that just never knew, when you bleed a brake system, whether you're using the stuff that I'm using, which I'll show you in a bit, or whether you're having somebody inside the car to pump the actual brake pedal, you always want to start furthest from the source of the fluid. What do I mean by that? That means my master cylinder and my reservoir is on the driver's side front of the car. So I want to start the furthest point away from that. And I'm gonna end at the closest point to it. In this case, the closest point is gonna be the driver's side front wheel. It's ahead of the slave cylinder. It's in front of the slave cylinder. When you're looking at the transmission, the slave cylinder is about here and the wheel is a little bit more forward. So here's how we're going to start. This is the sequence in the United States, where like you have left-hand drive vehicles. Rear passenger, rear driver, front driver, or if you have a clutch, this is actually what we're gonna go. Rear passenger, rear driver, master clutch, the slave cylinder, and then you're gonna go front passenger and then the driver's side. So that is how you're going to bleed this system. Always keep that in mind. You're starting from the furthest point of the source of the liquid. You're starting from the furthest point away from the master cylinder. So keep that in mind. Enjoy this video. I'm about to take off these tires and we're gonna get started on bleeding the system. Alright guys, so we're going to use one of my favorite tools to bleed a system. Motive Products Power Bleeder. This makes life so easy. Just know that you have to do proper maintenance on this, as in you have to clean it with denatured alcohol. That's about it. Denatured alcohol is about 10 bucks a liter. So anyways, what we're going to be doing with this is I'm going to fill it up with DOT4. I take the top of, I screw this on the top of the reservoir, which is right here. This is what we do. It's a little bit annoying because you have to make sure you don't screw up. Make sure this is tight. Take your, I'm using Super Dot 4. You just fill this bad boy up. Okay, and I sort of forgot, but you have to make sure your power steering, your brake fluid reservoir is full. So I got to make sure it's filled all the way up to the top. All right, that's that. Take this, which is the top, screw it on. I'm gonna give you guys a better look. So it has this gauge in the front. What I simply do is I keep pumping, make sure nothing is leaking. Nothing is leaking on my brake job. On these brake lines that I did, there's no leaking in the system. And we are at about 15 PSI. I usually like going up to 20. What are we at? Oh, we're at 10. I read that wrong. So we're just gonna keep pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping. Once it starts getting a little hard, like it is right now, I lock it. I put this at a little bit higher position. I like to keep this line as straight as possible, like so. And then now, I'm sweating like crazy by the way, but now we start bleeding. All right everybody, so we're gonna see exactly what's going on over here. So as you can see, the fluid starts coming out. The fluid starts coming out, but with it comes a lot of bubbles. If I can get this to focus. It's not focusing. Hold on guys. So with it, we gotta close it up again. Comes a lot of bubbles. A lot of air just came out of this system before, but it looks like it's all out. And you can see that brand new clean fluid coming out. So this is why I do this type of flush. It's because it's so much more easier. Like all the fluid just comes out. And that right there, as you can see, it's clean fluid. It's clean fluid, but the fluid is like got a lot of air in it. So now on to the other side. So now that I'm done bleeding the brakes, what we're going to do next is something that I'm very excited about. So what I have here is something I've been waiting for a long time, and it's very expensive to get a super high quality super drifto specco something or another, whatever, what everybody's shooting fireworks on. So what I have is Raceland coilovers. Nothing new here. Just some Racelins. We have the front and rear springs over here, front springs up here, with the actual coil over perch, riser, dropper, thingamabobber. I don't know what any of these are called, but that's what we got here. And I have the front shock, which is an actual insert, and you'll see when I take it off how it goes inside of a tube. And then I have also the rear shocks. I have, for my rear shock mounts, I bought these RevShift polyurethane shock mounts. And then for the front shock mounts, I just got some Sach. Just OEM replacements, nothing too crazy, nothing too, like, you can't really go out of hand with these. It's just some basic shock mounts. I didn't even get camber plates. I'm not gonna bother with that because I'm not gonna invest the money for camber plates if I'm just gonna go BCs later on. So yeah, enjoy what I'm about to do next. All right, so apologize for the horrible lighting that I have. Next, right now we're gonna take off the front caliper. I'm gonna do my best to keep everything intact because as you know, I just bled the brakes. So we're gonna take off the front calipers, and then we're gonna start dropping the front shock. Before anybody says I'm hanging the brake caliper by the brake line, I'm not. I have it tied. I have it tied. See? No tension on here, tension on here. So don't worry. Don't worry. Now it's time to take the rest of this off. Alright guys, so I've taken off the control arm. The lower control arm is disconnected from the spindle, as you can see, and so is this, the outer tie rod. You're gonna need a mallet. I don't know where my mallet went, so I ended up like carefully using a sludge hammer. And one of the tips I'd give is to always have the bolt threaded on, so that if you accidentally smack the thread, you accidentally smack it, the nut takes the impact, not the threads, so you don't ruin your threads. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. But other than that, it's just gonna be smooth sailing. I don't wanna, hopefully smooth sailing from here. I just gotta take this off now, these three, and this whole thing will drop. Alright, so that's the front shock out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out what they call the Jesus nut. And I'm not going to take it out right, so don't judge me. But it's going to be out nonetheless. Alright everybody, welcome back to day 2 of working on the E30, of completing this swap, and in about 5 seconds for you guys, it's been 24 hours for me. I already went ahead and put the coilover together because I had to figure out how to do it. It was relatively easy. This is the lower collar, this goes on here, spring goes above it, and then what I figured out was, like, you can either take vice grips and hold this little black part. There's like a black part, not the chrome part, there's a black part. But then I realized I can just take, because this is the safest way to do it. Because if you can see, it's like an Allen key hole, so I put the Allen key in there. It's like an Allen key hole. Put the Allen key in there. But I put the socket first. I put the Allen key through the socket. And this way I make sure everything's right, so that I don't break anything. Put the Allen key in there, alright? And then that holds this shock so that you can tighten it by hand and it seats 100%. So as you can see, there's little or no movement over here. There's like no play. So before it was like shaking back and forth. So this is shock number 1. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the other side, take that apart, and get started on shock number 2. All right, so all I'm gonna say is wow. All right, I'm surprised this shock was not installed correctly, and this shock is supposed to be like kind of screwed in to the actual shock body, and it just wasn't. It was like just sitting in there. The threads look fine, but wow, that like came right out. If you noticed in the video, that's pretty scary. But now I'm gonna put in the new stuff, the Raceland stuff, so keep watching, guys. Nah, bro, this should fit. In a lick, yeah. Living fast, Ricky Bobby, shake and bake, yeah. Alright guys, welcome back. For you it's been maybe like 5 seconds. For me it's been a week. I've been waiting on something exciting. I've been waiting on this bolt. This bolt. This can focus for once in its life. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. This one bolt for the tie rod has held up this entire operation. So I finally got it in the mail, ordered like 3 just in case if I ever take out the suspension again or the tie rods and the strips. Which I'm surprised. These were new bolts, but it is what it is. So now I gotta put everything back on the driver's side. So enjoy. All right, so finally, front suspension is done after waiting for those bolts. Now I'm gonna get started on the rear suspension, but before that, I wanna show you guys something. Something that I'm pretty excited about. I got my cooling system done. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have already seen this, but if you don't, then it sucks for you. But I got this Spec D, which is basically some eBay thing off aluminum 2-row radiator. I got the Mishimoto 16-inch slim fan. Mishimoto provides a really bad system to connect their fan to their relay, because I got the relay as well. So I went to AutoZone, I bought this pigtail, and I made connectors. All you gotta do is solder them in the right way, and that's it. I gotta top off the cooling system, and I'm good. Pretty much done with the cooling system. I got my O2 sensors, so if I finish the exhaust early today, I'm gonna put the headers on. So stay tuned. Alright everybody, so now that my car is officially on coilovers, I'm about to install my exhaust manifold.